Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us today and spending your time with us. We are really excited. This is our kickoff for a series of strategy workshops for the climate action planning best practices as part of the Central New Mexico Resilient Futures Initiative. And we are going to start with a few introductions in a second, so you can get to know us a little bit, and then we are going to have you give some introductions as well, so we know who is all in the room. I'm Katrina. I'm with Plant Collaborative, and we are supporting the city sustainability office in creating the regional climate action plan as for the Mr. Cog region, which will also provide direction for the city's climate action plan. With me today from my team is Dan and Zach. Dan will be monitoring the chat and will be getting back to you. And Zach will be helping us with note-taking. We are also, Alice is also here. She is the manager of the Climate Action Plan project. Anne is the manager of the Sustainability Office, is here as well. We have a few other people from the city that are supporting us today: Matt, Albert, Veronica. Later, we will be, as part of this presentation, we'll have a panel. Our panelists are Angelica, Brian, and Amber. They are all engaged in climate action planning and will give us insights into their work. We, apologies, have a house. Oh, this is our agenda. So we have a jam-packed agenda today. The first half of the agenda will be focused on digging into the climate action planning that has been happening. We'll do introductions, key considerations, climate planning in New Mexico, climate action planning best practices, and panel discussions. And for this part of the meeting, we would like to have everybody stay muted. If you have questions, put them in the chat and Dan will get to them as appropriate. The second part of this meeting will be a meeting for the community task force that is also here today. Xavier, Gina, Cassandra, Tanya, Neil, Ryan, and Jessica will be in the second part of the meeting discussing some of the climate action tasks, and they are also guiding this project. So we are excited to have the second part of this meeting be focused on their work. So just a few housekeeping items. As I was saying, keep yourself muted just so that we can get through the content. There's a lot of it. Dan will monitor the chat and will reply to your questions. If we can't answer them today, we will send a follow-up email and or respond to them as appropriate throughout the meeting. We will also record the session and share the presentation slides after the meeting. The next slides will have a poll, and so I want to get everybody started on their phones or your browser. If you have two screens, browser works fine. So you can either scan the QR code here, or we are going to the first slide, and hopefully you can give us input on who is all in the room. We want to get to know you. A lot of you work in the field that intersects with climate action, and so if you could scan either with your phone the QR code, or you can also go to the pollev.com-mrwmla254. I'm gonna do the same just so I am tagging along. All right, so I'm going to advance to the next slide if it lets me. And these first slides are our practice slides so that we get everybody started here. This is one of the most important questions in New Mexico, in my mind. So it's red, green, Christmas, or I don't like chili. Looks like we have a lot of Christmas lovers in the room. But again, if you are not set up yet, there's the QR code here in the corner. You can either participate through your phone. You can also do texting. So you text to the number 22333, and then you text MRWM 254, or you go to the browser. And if you still have trouble, just put something in the chat and Dan can share a link or guide you through this. All right, Christmas is winning. That's a surprise. Usually green chili does the best. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next slide. What is your zip code? So where do you reside? And whatever zip code is, the word cloud basically picks up, and the largest number is the whatever was put in the most. So it looks like 87108, 87110. Cool. And we are using this to collect data to tie you to a region. And when we are using these methods throughout the project to ground our data collection in specific areas, and then also tying the strategies that follow and hopefully sharing them with the region, with different communities, and hopefully work together to achieve the reduction of greenhouse emissions. All right, I'm gonna go to the next one. How would you describe yourself? So are you here representing a community or are a community member? Are you a policy advisor, subject matter expert? So if you pick B, that means you're working in this realm, you're working in a department that focuses on a specific subject matter in a specific area that we will potentially tag later to help us provide input on some of the strategies. Task force members, we have the task force that is going to meet later. The task force is guiding our project, and then other, if none of the above applies. All right. What communities or areas do you associate with? So this can be either the city of Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, or I don't know, Placitas, Cedar Crest. It can also be a neighborhood if you feel strongly connected to that. It can be a specific community that doesn't have boundaries that are that strictly delineated. Anything that you feel like you are tied to. Cool. Looks like Albuquerque is big. Looks like we got some Bernalillo County, downtown Santa Fe.
Katrina, do you mind doing
Yes.
a quick overview? We've got about 10 people who came a little late to get connected. Thank you.
So yeah, thanks so much. Anyone that joined late, you're joining our kickoff session for a series of workshops to help us inform the climate action plan that is led by the City of Albuquerque Sustainability Office, but applies to the MrCog region, so Torrance County, Sandoval County, Valencia County, and Bernalillo County. This kickoff meeting, we are all getting together to more generally discuss climate action, to get an overview of the project itself, and then also get an outlook into the next workshops in the next month. The first half of the hour, we will be engaging with you. We will be giving you an overview. We have everybody set up on Pull Everywhere. If you're not set up yet, you can either scan this code and do it on your phone, or you can go to pullev.com/MRWMLA254 and that in the browser, and that will get you started there. Or you can also do texting to the number 22333 and then text MRWMLA254. And we'll be having these questions throughout the presentation. So we hope to get everybody started on this here. All right, and if you still have trouble, just put something in the chat. We have Dan monitoring the chat. He's gonna hopefully be able to get you set up. Looks like Bernalillo is the community that most people associate with, not surprisingly. All right, and I'm gonna hand it over to Alice.
All right, thank you. Welcome everyone. We're so excited to welcome you to this space. I'm Alice Main. I've been hired as the grant manager for this particular program. I come to this work bringing some experience from my rural ranching family, also some early work in environmental advocacy around watersheds, as well as my recent MBA at UNM Anderson. So I'm really excited to bring together you all together today to talk about climate planning best practices and how we're trying to incorporate those into our upcoming comprehensive climate action plan and really highlight how you all can help shape the outcomes of this work. So the next slide, please. So I'm based out of the Sustainability Office here at the City of Albuquerque. It was established by Mayor Keller in 2019. And in its early days, I was actually there as an executive assistant, assisting with the greenhouse gas inventory and the 2021 Climate Action Plan, which are two foundational documents for our office. And we think we did a really good job on them, but we also know that there's definitely room for improvement. So part of that legacy that we're bringing forward is the ability to authentically engage community in this work and really try to advance our goals as a community and address some of our shortcomings. So we received this grant from the EPA to do this comprehensive climate action plan. It's a 4-year grant. And because we don't have jurisdictional authority over the full region, we're seeing this as an opportunity to also update the city's plan. So not only is your feedback today gonna inform this regional plan, but it'll also help us update the city's plan, ideally, that will come out next year. And as such, because we're making these considerations not only for ourselves, but I'm hoping the other major entities such as counties or maybe even institutions that have a lot of influence and power over this space to advance climate action, I'm hoping this work will also help with developing a plan for your organization, for your plan here. And the vision is really to also inspire coordinated local action. And through this, we think maybe a data dashboard or some kind of transparent reporting system might be of use. So that's the hope, but we for sure are going to work towards this comprehensive climate action plan. And that's what we're here today to discuss. Next slide. So as I mentioned, this is the region that we're focused in on today. It's central New Mexico. It's a 4-county region. So it's Sandoval, Bernalillo, Valencia, and Torrance counties. And our deliverable to the EPA is due December 1st, 2025. And it's part of this national climate planning effort, which is really, really cool. So basically this grant was given to 207 entities across the US, and which basically encompasses 97% of the US population. So we're drawing from those resources, and we're looking also locally to see how we can make the best use of this money and these resources to develop this climate plan, but also advance local action as well. Next slide. So this is the first of our workshop series. The first one, we really thought it'd be best to share some of the best practices around climate action and climate action planning, because that is a bit of the foundation of the work that we're trying to do, because ultimately we want to advance the needle on climate action, but in a way that really helps address the needs of our frontline communities. So those that are hit first and worst by climate change. And also to give you all an an opportunity to shape some of the key priorities and considerations that we're bringing into this work, and to make sure everyone has the tools to meaningfully engage in our upcoming sector workshops. So we'll be going over that at the very end of this call. But just know that we have these upcoming workshops where we're going to be selecting, prioritizing, and fleshing out what those strategies will be to go into this regional plan. And again, this regional plan is really focused on the local and institutional level. So ideally highlighting things for like the city of Albuquerque, maybe APS, maybe, the different counties. So really thinking critically about who has the authority to do these things and what are some of the best actions that we can work towards collaboratively. We do hope to do a community report back sometime later, maybe this summer or maybe in the fall. That is to be determined. But each of these online virtual meetings are going to be structured the same. So the first hour is going to be targeted towards folks who are working in this space, community members who are interested in this work. And the second half will be dedicated towards our community task force. So these are individuals who are representing frontline communities and have been specifically selected to serve on this, to help us make sure that community values and priorities are uplifted in this work. Next slide. Okay, so here is a fun section of the presentation. So the key considerations of this work are really important because we want to make sure that we're grounded in a shared understanding of where we're coming from and where we want to go. Next slide. So at the end of this next slide, we're going to be asking for your feedback on what you heard that you think is good, like what resonated with you, and what else is missing. So keep that in mind as I speak through some of these points. So in terms of setting the stage here, we think it's really important to ensure that we're taking a place-based approach. We're recognizing the incredible value that this land and our cultures and our people have in this space. We're all blessed to call New Mexico home, but we also need to recognize that, there are communities here that are disproportionately burdened and have experienced negative outcomes because of, this westernization of New Mexico. So that's our first point that we'd like to make. The second is around global implications of inaction around climate work. So we know that climate pollution, especially greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxides, et cetera, are causing a lot of harm to our environmental ecosystems and also communities that have not contributed to global warming in general. So that is a global equity issue, and mitigation, aka reducing our emissions, is really important to this work because there's also implications around instability, climate migration, capital investments for, addressing climate disasters. All of those things apply to us here that sometimes I think gets left out of the conversation. And then next is the role of major institutions in this, in both positive and negative ways. So sadly, government was historically designed for one user group. So typically that's the white male landowners. And because of that history, our institutions are not always the most equitable and have an earned reputation of being rather extractive. So that is a truth that we need to bring into this work. But we also know that government has been, getting better over time, mainly because of the major social movements that have been spearheaded by community members. But that government has a huge role to play in addressing these issues and really moving the needle on climate action. Especially local governments have a really unique role to play because we tend to be the entities that people touch and interact with on a day-to-day basis. Urban environments have a unique opportunity to really drastically reduce emissions because we have some of the largest population centers. We're the kind of hub of trade and commerce. And there's also a really great opportunity to intersect with our rural communities around developing local systems, economies, etc. And then the role of industry is also worth noting because unfortunately, corporations are structured to have what's called the shareholder primacy. So really only thinking about what shareholders are valuing and not necessarily other stakeholders like community or perhaps the environment. So we are working against some of these structural systems, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a better way. And there is a lot of innovation in this space and a lot of hope, despite the federal government really stepping back in this topic. So I just want to impress upon you this group to think about all of those things and how it may or may not influence effective climate planning and climate action in this area. And for our opportunities, you know, there's space for us to direct our time and our resources with this particular grant to really help maybe build local capacity to do more of this work. We're trying our best to be really transparent in how we're making decisions and developing tools that are maybe are able to be utilized by other groups and entities. We're really working hard to improve our stakeholder engagement and share best practices with those that are interested. We think we're doing an okay job. There's no perfect solution to effective community engagement, but I'm happy to share some of those ideas with you all. But really, when it comes to helping institutions change, there needs to be some discussion around developing smart strategies. So that can look like, having them be specific and measurable, actionable. I'm forgetting all the other, what the other letters stand for. So feel free to help me in the chat. But also, partly because it helps institutions like the Sustainability Office, the City of Albuquerque, make sure we're being held accountable to the actions that we've committed to. So that really helps us institutionally make changes and also helps inspire dialogue and transparency with the community. And then last but not least, and I've mentioned a few times already, how do we actually inspire action? So one of the biggest issues about climate change is actually our inability to take meaningful action around it. We've already done lots of great stuff, but in general, we know that there's a lot that we need to do. So those are some of the key considerations that we've thought about thus far. When we advance to the next slide, we'll be asking you all. So the first question is, so next slide, please. Is to highlight what are some of the things that you heard that you agree with, to make sure that we're on track and maybe to prioritize some of the things that are really popular with this group. I'll give folks a few minutes. That's a big question. Yep, centering frontline communities. Absolutely. Local and Indigenous wisdom. Yep. Historical inequity of government. Smart strategies. Yeah. Historical context, great. Yep. Systemic issues and racism. Yep. Systems change. Accountability, nice. Yes, don't depend on federal government. Yeah, different roles. Yeah, I think there's something interesting around, how individual action and institutional action can work together, because I think there's definitely a role that government can play. Most back to communities, centering frontline communities and tribal input, sharing info. Awesome. Okay. Doing best practices. Okay. So I'll give folks another 30 seconds or so, because I also want to hear, what are some other things that maybe we didn't talk about, we're not thinking about that we should. So if you can, cool. And if you have additional things as we advance through these slides that you didn't get to say, you're welcome to either put them in the chat or follow up with us in an email if you did. Corporate priorities. Yeah, and something I find it really interesting about working in institutions is organizational behavior and how those norms are influence our activities. So I know there's a few folks in the room that I've invited to think about these issues. Involvement, despite climate change being scary. Yep. Yeah, and having a hopeful outlook on this work is really, really important. When we're talking about behavior change, yeah, first of all, no one really likes to be told what to do. So co-creating these actions is really important, but also making sure that there's hope and excitement and positive reinforcement in this space. Taking our time to do it right. Yeah, synergy, not redundancy. Nice. Community access to public resources, full implications. Awesome. Actionable strategies. Awesome. Yep. Okay. Yeah, getting at people out to vote. Yeah, so some civic action there. Maybe highlighting what those levers of change may be. Social equity. Yeah, helping local government. Oh, this is so great to see. Thank you everyone for your participation. If the times are urgent, we must slow down. I really like that one. In my learning around racial equity, I've come to realize that a sense of urgency is a trait of white supremacy, and it's a really hard one to challenge because we live in this system, we have grant requirements, and that's been a really big challenge that I've been working to address as well. Provide funding opportunities for TLPAs. Whoever wrote that one, I'd love to know what the acronym is, just so we're all on the same page. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're at 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh, thank you for the time check. All right, we're gonna move on to the next question.
Did you want me to?
Right.
TLPA is Tribal Local Public Agency.
Awesome.
It's a shared service with NMDOT. So my funding sources are offered out to all public agencies. So I think this would be a great time to kind of provide, what that looks like, what the process is. So, the different entities have opportunities to apply for federal funding to meet some of these initiatives.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we're on to the next question here. What key considerations are missing? So what is something that we should also include? Solutions, okay, yeah. Mass migration of people, okay, interesting. Climate, environmental justice, education, all levels, that's good. This work is complicated. Climate and sustainability touches almost every major institution, almost every major sector. It asks very personal questions as well around individual behavior change. And as you said, institutional change is really hard. Health, yes, yeah. Furthering local food systems. Automobiles, yep. Yep. Cool. Shifts in animal and plant ranges. That the ecosystem shifts. Longevity initiatives across administration. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, how do you build institutional capacity to continue this work despite turnover, cuts, political whims, climate refugees? Yep. It's more important to draw down and radically reduce energy consumption rather than new technologies. Yep. Competing ideas or actions. Very good. Health connection. Yes. And we have so many knowledgeable people in this webinar. This is incredible. Okay, folks, we're at the halfway mark here, so we're going to advance to the next slide. Please enter any last questions. So here we're going to talk a little bit more about climate action planning and some best practices, which will kind of lead into our panel discussion. So next slide. So for those who aren't familiar with climate plans, I really think of them as a form of strategic plan that's really data informed. It is informed by also like community priorities and other factors, so maybe funding or kind of other items that are required of that strategic plan. Tier 1, 2, or 3 is basically a recognition of how many teeth does this plan have? So a tier 1 plan would be like our integrated development ordinance here at the city. It's a must. People have to do these things. There's real consequences of not following the rules. And then 2 and 3 are ones that are maybe a little bit more soft. So something that's a little more aspirational. It's more of guiding work rather than requiring it. Typically, they build off of strengths. And in terms of climate plans, they really look at addressing climate risks and improving environmental social outcomes. They typically include adaptation and mitigation. So adaptation is, okay, the world is changing. What are we going to do about it? Mitigation is, how do we reduce our pollution to prevent the worst outcomes of climate change from occurring? They typically include long and midterm horizons. That's typically 2030 and ideally net zero. So net zero emissions by 2050. And some of the new things that are happening in this space is really changing it from a math problem to a human problem, because it is, led by a lot by climate scientists for a while now, and we're really needing to reshift our focus to that this is a human problem and it's an equity problem. Some of the bigger challenges to doing this work well is effective stakeholder engagement and behavior change. So how do we actually change behavior in institutions? And honestly, in all of the above approach, because we also need our high income earners to change behavior as well. And ideally, it includes climate governance, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. Next slide. So this is just a quick side-by-side comparison of what the EPA is requiring of us versus what are some examples of best practices that I've drawn from C40 cities. We're required to do greenhouse gas inventory, reduction targets, and projections, which are all great, which are done. We need to select our mitigation measures. That's what we're doing in the following workshops. We need to do this community benefits analysis and a frontline community analysis. And this is kind of ties in to some of the community engagement and equity and inclusivity work that's on the right-hand side. I've read in red is something that's no longer required by the EPA because of the federal administration change, but we're still going to be moving forward with it. And what's unique about this work is we also do authority to implement. So like, who has jurisdictional authority to actually change these things? What funding is available? And are there any workforce components? I think that's really, really awesome. And then these other components are examples of what maybe we could be doing if we had more time, or we're trying to follow, international best practices. Okay, next slide. We're going to try to get through these questions really quick. So just off the top of our head, what are some of Central New Mexico's strengths regarding climate and environmental justice? This could be something like we've got a great renewable energy potential, nice, got indigenous knowledge, diverse cultural representation. Yes, people care about this issue a lot. Lots of public land. Great. Awesome. All right, we're going to do the speed round. So we're going to do 30 seconds on this one. And then we're going to move on to the next question. Water, beautiful. Community solar, that's great. Nice. Walk, bike all year round. Renewable energy, including geothermal, which is cool. Entrepreneurship network, a lot of neat innovation happening in this space. Enthusiasm. Ah, this is great. I never want this to end. Cool. Awareness of need. All right, we're gonna close this up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next slide. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so now this one might be a little harder to answer, but we really want to see how can the work that we're doing inspire further action in this region. This is a bit of a tough question, so totally understandable if there's not a lot of responses. Educate key decision makers, use of coal, renewables, nice. Share best practices. Connect like minds, great. Direct leadership, cool. Education and awareness. Prioritize action for a coordinated approach. Get more buy-in from residents. And maybe an educational component. Model for states. Cool. That's a nice aspirational goal. I like that. Increase collaboration, advocate for state level support, education and marketing. Give people hope. Heck yeah. Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna do a 5-second countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you everyone, great job. Okay, so before we dip into our panelists, I just wanna give everyone some, share some of the climate planning work that's happening in New Mexico. Next slide. So as we mentioned, this work is part of this national climate planning program. We're focused in on the central New Mexico region, but there's bunches of other agencies doing this work across the US. So we have access to those resources and the technical support from the EPA that we're happy to share with any kind of institution or local government that's interested in learning about this work. The state of New Mexico is doing the same plan for the entire state. It's also due December 1st, 2025. They're also hosting some sector workshops as well. We have a bunch of tribal entities as well that are doing this work. I think it's pretty unique that we have so many organizations that are doing climate planning work through this same program. And so we're all in connection and have monthly meetings. But there's also a bunch of other stuff happening here. So we've got an adaptation and resilience plan. The University of New Mexico is working on 2 different plans. Los Alamos County, who you'll hear from, and did a really great climate action plan in 2022. We've got the city's work that we did. The city of Albuquerque Biopark is actually doing their own organizational plan, and we've learned a lot from them and their contractors, and that's been really awesome to watch. And there's also plans that are no longer on federal websites, but these organizations did create really robust climate planning work as well. And so there are resources there. There is interest in taking action on this work. It just might look different now. So it might be more about energy independence and security, but there's still a lot of those shared values. And that's what we kind of want to uplift and acknowledge in this work. And maybe your organization here. So next slide, we're gonna ram through these questions real quick. This is just a quick poll of whether your organization considers environmental or social outcomes in decision making. So this can be like, do you have a climate action plan? Do you include this in your mission statement? Maybe do you have a decision making protocol in your organization that actually helps you allocate time and resources into this work? So I know this might be a little hard to answer, but or if you're not affiliated with an organization, that's fine. All right, we're going to do a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next slide. Thanks, everyone. Okay, this is we want to know what is your organization already doing to address climate change or environmental justice? So this is kind of like helping us with asset mapping to see what solutions are already implemented and, you know, have a proof of concept. So community composting pilot, awesome. Yeah, public EV car share, the city has that. It's really cool. I talked to Albert about it. Fleet electrification, nice. Education policy advocacy, nice. Planning for a hotter and drier future, good. Yeah, there's a lot of like risk mitigation. So that's typically where this work falls under, especially in business, is around risk mitigation, insurance, and long-term planning around a lot of this space. Yep. We got the New Mexico. So that's the one I mentioned earlier that the state's working on. Nice free training to the community around clean energy. Not much. Yeah, that's fair. Cool. Okay, we're going to do a 5-second countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next slide. Okay. How can this planning effort help your organization take further action? So specifically looking at the organizational level, what are some things that we might be able to do to help your org do some of this work? Regional goals, SMART goals, nice. Funding, awesome. We're working on it. Shared data, cool. Building partnerships and prioritizing action. I think that's really a fascinating one, because if we're working on 200 different things, I think we'd be spread pretty thin. So it'll be really nice to come together and figure out what those priorities are. Yes, elevate and prioritize existing efforts. No sense in reinventing the wheel. Funding. Connection, alignment. Awesome. Report on progress. Cool. All right, 5-second countdown. So we have time for our great panelists. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next slide. Okay, thank you everyone for your engagement with those questions. That is the end of our polling experience. But we do want to welcome you to engage with our 3 panelists. So next slide. So today we have Angelica. She is with Los Alamos County. She is their sustainability manager there. So she's kind of the one-stop shop, all things sustainability for Los Alamos County. She finished this really great climate action plan. We also have Brian. He's from Bernalillo County. He is their sustainability person there as well. And he's going to speak to his experience around trying to advance climate work in Bernalillo County. And then we also have Amber, and Amber's from the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. And this is basically a technical support group that the Sustainability Office and a lot of other local governments turn to for technical support, assistance, especially around climate planning, equity work, etc. So Angelica, Brian, and Amber, do you mind turning on your cameras and doing a short introduction of yourself? We'll probably go one at a time. So we'll start with Angelica. If you can introduce yourself and then answer these 3 questions in a way that responds to also some of the work that some of the words and feedback that you've heard today so far.
Who's going first?
Yeah, you're going first, baby.
Oh, I am? Okay, sorry. I didn't hear that part. Okay, hi, I'm Angelica Gurule and I work for Los Alamos County. And I'm their sustainability manager, started in solid waste and then was recently promoted into this position. So we finished our climate action plan. It was approved and adopted by our county council in November of last year. So let's see, I'll start with the first question. So describe your experience with climate action and or climate action plan. So I just mentioned, so we hired Cascadia Consulting Group and they're across the United States and they helped us, they performed a greenhouse gas inventory of our community. And then we also looked down a little bit further into the county operations. And then we also did another inventory that was consumption-based inventory. So if you have any questions about those, I can share with you the details offline. So that was my experience. We worked on the county side, coordinating and, you know, helping assist with the data gathering and everything like that for the climate action plan and the greenhouse gas inventory. So we did a lot of community engagement. We did surveys and then we developed strategies. We received public comment and integrated those into the final climate action plan that we have. So that's my experience with that. And let's see, what are the benefits of developing a climate action plan? So for Los Alamos, I will just say that as a county, we are doing a lot of sustainability work. You could call it that. You know, so we're trying to electrify our golf carts at the golf course. We have a goal to be a net zero carbon electricity provider by 2040. We have a goal to phase out natural gas by 2070. We have a very well utilized recycling program. So, you know, we run the Atomic City Transit, which is a free public bus service that we provide for our community. So it was all being done under this umbrella of just county services. And I think what it really did was just put everything, you know, kind of just a comprehensive location for us to all follow like how we would get to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So we integrated all the things we were doing and then found gaps in the areas that we still needed work in. So I think that's the benefit, is that it just kind of lays it out all together in a nice little tidy package and everybody can be then on the same page of what we're trying to work towards. And then also from like a community perspective, I think it shows leadership from your community that they care and they want to, you know, do what's best for the community and for the environment. And then what advice do I have for you all? So I think Ellis is doing a really good job of trying to like bring along the community, and there's lots of opportunities with these different like workshops that she's planning. We did them all together, so that's a little different of an approach. So I think it's great. She also has a task force that was created specifically to assist with this. In Los Alamos County, we have an environmental sustainability board. So we used them in a similar capacity where they represent the community. And they were also able to help facilitate like community meetings and share information about the plan. So the advice, I would say you're doing it externally. So just make sure you bring along internally all the groups that this will impact, because that was something that we did, but I think we could have done a little bit more in that regard of just, you know, making sure that they were on board with everything, you know, kind of beginning to the end as well, because in the end, it will be heavily reliant on staff to implement a lot of the goals. So we want to make sure that, you know, they're okay with things, and we're hearing some of their concerns that they might have with some of the solutions. So yeah, that's it for now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Angelica. Short
You're
and sweet,
welcome.
and yeah, really to the point. Clearly you're demonstrating a lot of leadership in New Mexico now in terms of, you know, local action, local government action. And what's kind of unique, for those of you who don't know, Los Alamos County also has publicly owned utilities, so they have a few more ways to address climate and climate action than some other local governments. So kind of a unique opportunity, and they've done some really fun things like they have their libraries do this ghost tour in the fall to identify where leaks are in your house. So anyways, there's a lot of fun and fun innovation happening up there. So I really appreciate you being here and sharing some of your wisdom with us.
Welcome.
Okay. We're gonna pass off to Brian. Brian, take it away.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. Thanks Alice for inviting me to join the conversation. I'm Brian Bonanno. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator with Bernalillo County. I've been here for actually 2 years tomorrow, May 1st. And as far as my involvement in climate action planning, when I got started, I joined an effort that was underway already at the time to develop the county's first climate action plan for its operations. So they had conducted a greenhouse gas inventory at that point, and we're working on developing goals based around that inventory. And we actually wrapped that plan in this last fall in 2024. And we're still struggling a little bit to get it adopted. I am in the midst right now of trying to pull items from that finalized plan that we got in 2024, specifically our fleet section, to start looking at ways that we can at least start implementing some of the recommendations from that plan. So looking at how to right size our fleet, how to place chargers, how many chargers, what vehicles to replace. So that's at least, while we don't have a formally adopted plan at the moment, we're incorporating kind of some of the recommendations and pieces from that planning effort. And the hope is that we can kind of continue. I'm actually pushing right now to get a plan formally adopted, but it has been, you know, a bit of an uphill battle. And part of, I guess, some of the challenges that we kind of experienced was with that effort was maybe just being able to communicate with all of our internal departments, making sure that everybody was represented, everybody understood what we were trying to get from this, and then kind of incorporating that into some of the strategies or recommendations. It was also, I think, difficult coming into a process halfway. So, you know, it had started officially, the county kind of started their sustainability efforts after a resolution in 2019. They started pursuing an effort for a climate action plan in the summer of 2021, and then hired a firm I think it was either the fall of 2021 into 2022, and started working from that point. But there was no kind of internal staff or kind of, I think we were a little ahead. The cart was a little ahead of the horse. And so now part of what I'm working on is to try and like get things kind of reorganized and figure out what our goals are, figure out what we can take from that plan, see if we can get it implemented or formally adopted, and then add components that we may be missing. So And then, yeah, I mean, I think it's been a bit of a challenge to, make sure that it's still a priority, I think, within the county at times. But I'm still working on that. And as far as the benefits, I actually might, if you don't mind, I'll just read real quick something that I put together, kind of explaining why I think a climate action plan is necessary. And this is something that I put in a kind of a report that was kind of a debrief on that last climate action plan that we kind of sent up the ladder. So if you don't mind, I'll just kind of read real quick what I wrote, but I think it summarizes kind of why this is so important. So
Yeah, that's
I
perfect.
said,
And then after this, we'll probably have to turn it over to our last.
oh, okay, sorry, I'll jump off real quick, but well, I'll just do it real quick. So, I mean, a reason why this is important is a sustainability plan can provide the county with an essential roadmap to minimize further contributions to climate change. It can identify potential climate vulnerabilities so that we can reduce harm to our facilities, our operations, and to the communities that we serve. And by assessing our climate risks and developing adaptation and resilience strategies, the county can better prepare for climate-related disasters, protect those vulnerable communities, reduce harm to both infrastructure and ecosystems. And they can also, some of these strategies can help us recover faster from any climate-related disruptions in our future. That's kind of just a short, sweet version of it, but that's some of the work that we're trying to do to kind of push this effort forward. So anyway, thank you. Appreciate the time.
No, thank you, Brian. And Brian's one of those, one of the staff members that's really trying hard to move the needle. And there's a lot of competing interests. And so in some of our early interviews with other local governments, time and capacity is often a big challenge, but also how do, elected officials respond to and prioritize action in the space. And I think that's where we can have some dialogue around what can institutions do, what can community advocates do, and how do we work together towards this coordinated approach. So Brian, thank you for being there and doing the hard work, and Helika as well. You guys are both really important staff members that are doing great, helping us all build a better future for everyone. Okay, we're going to turn it over to Amber. Amber, thank you for joining us. You're kind of our unicorn in the room today. So please maybe just give a short introduction of what USDN is, and then address some of the questions as you see fit.
Yeah, of course. Alice, before I begin, can you tell me about how much time I have? I don't want to go over.
We are trying to end at 1:30, but I think if
Okay.
you go
We got a
over
minute.
5 minutes, I think we'll be here for till 2:30. So we're going to cut a little bit into the community task force time. So you're welcome to,
Yeah, I'll be quick. So, hello everyone. My name is Amber Weaver. I am with the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. Our network consists of over 300 local governments working in this space. It's a network where folks can learn from one another and really think creatively. And
5 years. He was done, bro.
With some of those sticking points. Sorry, that was distracting. And prior to that, I worked at the city of Asheville as their sustainability officer for 8 years. So definitely have some experience with climate action planning. However, if we were to take a couple steps back, I want to just kind of talk globally about climate action planning. Globally, this work is also moving forward from a vision into deep implementation. Cities are no longer just setting goals, but they're embedding climate in budgets, regulations, and community partnerships, which I'll touch on a little bit more in the second question. And then, of course, also focusing on equity-centered and community-led solutions to achieve net zero emissions. Many of the networks are similar to USDN that you might be familiar with, our Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance, that are helping to turn bold commitments into action by supporting local leaders, sharing strategies and scaling innovation similar to USDN, but on a global scale. Um, and then, a lot of that work gets done, as I said, through peer exchange and innovation, which is a really great place to be and really great to be supported. That kind of leads into that a third question. But before I go there, I want to also talk about the benefits of developing climate action plans and where to embed them. I think a lot of folks have success embedding them in your budget and overlapping these plans with your planning directors and their large plans or large scope of plans from your electeds, and additionally helping community partnerships in fulfilling a lot of the work in your climate plans. So the advice I would give is that you are not alone. Most sustainability offices are rather small. You do not have to implement, you are not there to implement all of your climate plan. So really be thinking strategically about how to implement policy. And the best places to do that are, in budgets. If you can kind of weasel your way into the budget process where you're reviewing capital requests to ensure that they're meeting these climate needs that have been identified. Also, again, when you're working with your planning department and you're thinking about ordinances and updating ordinances through their plans that they update, it's really great to overlap what has been identified in climate action plans into your planning department and their plans, because obviously, like, the more you can stack, the more plans that you can stack, where you can say, like, look at all these goals we would hit in several different plans, is a win-win for both the departments that you're trying to work alongside, as well as council or county goals. And then in addition to that, finally, going back to community partnerships, community knows best. They know what they need. They've been doing this work for a long time, and it would be really great if local governments could figure out avenues to support their work while also meeting the goals in these climate action plans. That could be paying your community-based organizations to do some of that work, or paying them for the work that they do. So those are many different ways, and the benefits of developing climate action plans and working succinctly with community partners and your city departments. And then the only other advice I would give is to take care of yourself. This is big, heavy work, and it's not going to be done quickly. It takes a great deal of time. And so be kind to yourself while you're working on this really heavy work. It's a lot to hold. So be kind to yourself, stay committed to your relationships and your community, things that energize you, to be able to come into work and fight the good fight.
Amber, that was really beautiful and well said. Thank you so much for your time, for your advice. Yeah, you really shared a lot of gold with us. And it's our intention to take forward all these really great ideas and comments from everyone in this room to embed that into our climate planning process going forward. So just want to, a silent round of applause for you all for your time. We're going to wrap up this first section of this meeting a few minutes over time. So next slide, please. Next slide. And this is basically just a quick preview of what's coming next. So next week, we have our transportation workshop. So we're going to really be digging into the details of what's up with transportation, kind of where the big pollution sources are and what we can do to address some of those, ideally coming from this space of collaboration and uplifting these best practices. On the right-hand side, you have a proposed agenda. So we'll do kind of similar things. We're getting to know who's in the room, the same polling questions. And this just helps allow us to tie your answers to the communities that you identify with. So we can make it easy for other entities to adopt, to use this data, to adopt this into their sub-plan, should they so choose to create it. And then we'll do an overview of the topic. So, we'll do probably a similar, we'll co-create some of that. We'll do some research, and then we'll vote on the top strategies. In this second section of this workshop series, we're going to be, for the second hour, we're going to be giving the working with the community task force to debrief this meeting, but also go into detail of what these sector workshops will look like. You're welcome to listen in, but this really is a time for us to work alongside our community task force members with this work. So again, everyone's welcome, but and we really hope to see you in our upcoming workshop series throughout the rest of the next few months, where we hope to prioritize and maybe budgetize some of these climate actions. So thank you all so much. For those of you who can only attend this first hour, you're welcome to go. We'll maybe take a short bio break, maybe 5 minutes. And then we will we'll convene, we'll start our community task force meeting. Okay, thank you all. I'm gonna just mute myself and take off my camera and we'll start a 5-minute timer. Thank you everyone for being here. Our agenda, awesome. Yeah, so I think what we'll do, folks, here is we'll do short introductions, and then we'd like to go over a few materials to just make sure we're all on the same page with some of the work that our team has been doing, but also what the upcoming workshop sessions will look like. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll vote in our last task force members from our nominees. So if maybe we can unshare Katrina, and then community task force members, if you feel comfortable turning your video on. I think it'd be really nice for you to reintroduce yourselves to each other, because we will have a few additional nominees join us as well. So I'm going to, okay, cool. Oh, thanks for not having me be the only pinned one. I get a little self-conscious. Cool. So let's see here. I think I can pin some additional folks. All right, I'm going to start. Oh, wait, Dan, I might be messing things up here.
Yeah, I can.
You can help me?
I can keep pinning people if you want. I'll try to wrangle all the task force members.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So Neil, since I accidentally pinned you and took everyone else off, do you mind just giving a short introduction? What we have for the intros is actually pretty simple. Just your name. Let me pull it up here and I'll put it in the chat. So here we have, let me put it in the chat to everyone, so this is for community task force members. to do your name, pronouns, organizations or affiliations if appropriate, and how you describe the first half of the meeting in 1 to 3 words. And then what excites you most about this work? Because we also want, since there are a few new nominees here, I think it's nice for them to know a little bit of your, why you're in the room. So Neil, take it away, and then we'll pass it off to Cassandra next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Neil Pino, pronouns he, him, él. I'm currently working as a communications coordinator for a nonprofit called Nature Niños. I have experience doing outdoor education here in the nonprofit sector, as well as I'm currently doing some, I'm a student researcher at CNM. How would I describe the first half of this meeting in 1 to 3 words? It was a good refresher. Since I'm on the task force, Alice had given us a bunch of resources to look over before this meeting. So it was good, like getting to, kind of hear back that the community agrees on a lot of those things. That was a lot more than 1 to 3 words, but insightful, refreshing. And what excites me about this work, like I said, I love hearing from the community and just knowing that the work that we're doing is impacting them. I was just at Rio Grande State Park with a bunch of youth. It was their first time going outdoors. I never got to experience the state park here in Albuquerque growing up. I never even knew it was here. So knowing that we can help increase access for people to, enjoy these lands and then kind of inspire them to help take care of their communities is what excites me and kind of gets me energized about doing the work.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Neil. All right, Cassandra. And then I'm going to put someone on deck. Tanya, you're on deck.
Cool. Hi, my name's Tanya. Oh, sorry.
Oh, well,
go ahead.
And then I'll pass it to you. Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm Cassie. I am a PhD student at UNM. I study drought in New Mexico, and I am looking at ways that we can use that information to help mitigate and restore our ecosystems. I do all my work here at the Sabieta, my beautiful background, which is south of Albuquerque. But I'm originally from northern New Mexico. My pronouns are she, her. The first half of the meeting, I was really encouraged. I didn't know how many people would join, and it was awesome to see so many from so many different fields and places and communities. And I am excited about this work. I think local and regional policy is really hopeful and really inspiring. I think it's really tangible, and that really excites me to work on applying our knowledge to an area that is meaningful, and it feels good to put my energy into this. Thanks. On to you, Tanya.
Thanks. Sorry about that. My name is Tanya Mullen. I'm an international district resident. I'm with the New Mexico Circular Sanitation Project and the Reina Luz Urban Ag Alleyway Project, working to increase pollinator pathways in the neighborhood, cooling the ground in the alleys, maybe getting more perennial planting out there to sequester carbon and help build soil. I was also very energized and excited by the first portion of the meeting. I saw almost 100 people on, and I think that that's really a sign of how committed our community is to stepping in and making an impact on our climate future. And that is also linked in with what I'm excited about, helping people see that they do have the power to make a difference in their own futures is something I'm really passionate about. And I think in this area, something as simple as getting rid of those rocks in your yard and putting down some good wood chip mulch, everybody can do that. Most everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Tanya. Gina, you're up, and then Ryan, you're on deck.
Hi, everyone. Gina Brenya. I am with the Delamar Neighborhood Association, which is a neighborhood in the North Valley of Albuquerque, and then also work on the Center for Social Sustainable Systems. Does work with the acequias, primarily in the Atrisco Valley. And I'm not sure I'm going to hit all the questions because I was gone when you told us what to say, but I'm hopeful listening to the first part of the meeting. I agree with what Cassie just said. And I actually was kind of surprised to see so many people on the meeting. So probably more hope. And I don't remember the last thing, but anyway, thank you. Happy to be here.
It's all good. It's also in the chat for folks who are, so it's a name, pronouns, describe the meaning in 1 to 3 words and excites you, but you did a great intro. All right, Ryan, you're on deck. And then Xavier, I believe you're next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Redmaker, currently with Tewa United, but also have been working with the Parito Environmental Education for the last few years. And then really just kind of getting more and more connected in with different things up in Los Alamos. I am also on this Los Alamos Sustainability Alliance, which works with actually Angelica, who was on earlier. So I've been part of that project as well. Amazing to watch all these people do this work. And I agree. It was really, when I hopped on and saw like 97 people on, I was like, yes, this is awesome. Some good momentum. And I think that I'll just speak for myself as myself in this statement, but I believe this current political situation is forcing those of us who are community oriented and care about the environment, people, and the world are to kind of unite. And I am excited about the momentum that's building behind that connection, and the fact that it's also coming at a time where we have already put some effort into creating some solutions for these problems. And so excited to have that baseline there while we move forward. Why I'm excited about doing this work is I think we are at a major turning point for our species and this planet. And I think that it's incredible to be in a time where we have the technology, the passion, the knowledge, the cultural history, just all the pieces are there for us to like really catapult ourselves into a new era of being human beings on this planet. And I love being a part of that. And I think we're all ready for it. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. All right, Xavier, I believe you're next. And then if Jessica, if you're on the call, or Jorge, you'll be up next. Xavier, you might be on mute.
Oh, can you all hear me now?
Yep, all good.
Hey everyone, Xavier Barraza here with Los Sardines Institute. We're a legacy grassroots organization in the South Valley. I'm also here co-representing Together for Brothers, which is an organization that works with young men in the city of Albuquerque, in Bernalillo County. The meeting, well attended, well polled. I enjoyed the polling and it was well attended, which was awesome. I think I'm excited because one of the important things I think Los Sardines especially, and also Together for Brothers, recognizes is that we need to get everyone at the table, because we have a lot to talk about and there's a lot of work to be done. And a lot of us are doing work, some of us for many generations, some of us are starting, and we need to always just pay respect to each other's efforts. And so hopefully we can do that here. We are gathered, but we do need to, be intentional about that, about actually slowing down and seeing where we're at when it comes to how we're planning for our shared futures. So yeah, just paying great respect to what's already happening. And I'm hoping, I know it's a lot to slow an institution like the city down, or a county, or an industry, but we have to be able to work this out. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Thank you all. I believe that's all the task force members that are in attendance today. I did want to provide an opportunity for some of the nominees to just do a short introduction. We'll do your pitch a little later. But I believe I saw Zia, you're in the room. So let's get you off the bat. And then Alejandra, you're on deck. And then I believe Julia is also here. You'll go next.
All right, I'll start out. Hi, everybody. My name is Zia Martinez. I'm currently working as the lead food justice organizer for Project Feed the Hood. But I've been a farmer in the South Valley and worked in mostly school and youth education around that. But have been able to branch out a lot more and do more policy and legislation and community grassroots organizing with many of you here today. So I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Alejandra, you're next. Julia, you're on deck. And then we'll do Krista and then Danielle.
Perfect. Thanks, Alice. Yeah, it was good to be on the meeting today. My name is Alejandria Lyons. I use she, her pronouns. For those who do not know me, I am currently the coalition coordinator for New Mexico No Fault Solutions. We're our coalition. I'm based here in Albuquerque, but we work all over the state of New Mexico. Yeah, I, have worked with several environmental and climate justice organizations here in Albuquerque. I actually grew up in Los Lunas and I got my master's in community and regional planning. So this kind of work is definitely up my alley. I'm very excited to see what we're doing with the plan here, having that background in community and regional planning. I know it's hard to take a plan that's, sometimes can just sit on the shelf to something that is very actionable. So I'll just share that bit about myself now. And Alice, I'll pass it back to you. But thank you all for having me.
I think I said Julia next, right? Great.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julia Bernal. I am from San Diego Pueblo, and I am the executive director of a local grassroots environmental justice organization called Pueblo Action Alliance. We have been working on various campaigns to address, oil and gas, false climate solutions, water-related issues as well throughout the state. Yeah, my background is water resources. I've been working in that sector for over a decade now, and looking forward to hopefully participating in this effort. Yeah, I think it's important that this collaborative is looking beyond the boundaries of Albuquerque. So hopefully I can contribute in that way. And yeah, I'll go ahead and stop there. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Julia. All right, I believe I said Krista and then Danielle.
Yes, hi, hello. My name is Krista Chico. I am Muskogee Acoma Navajo. I am a job developer currently with the Native Professional Advancement Center, which is still powered by the National Indian Youth Council. I currently work with them as a job developer, working within the community with participants 18 and over. And then another big part of what I do is I work with the Native Leadership Collective of Albuquerque as well. And we work with 35 different Native-run organizations throughout the city of Albuquerque, kind of working together to collaborate to bring issues to the forefront and to kind of work together to see how we can make an impact together. And then another big part of what I do too is I am really engaged with the community, involved in a lot of community outreach and community events. I'm currently in Gallup, New Mexico, at our third annual Film and Media Expo. And so a lot of what I do is really community engagement, reaching out to the community, making sure that they're aware of resources that are available, making sure that they're aware that there are people who are trying to make improvements in these situations, especially with climate change, and trying to also make that awareness to the youth, so then that way we can engage them and bring them on board to help with this mission as well. But yeah, that's what I wanted to share about myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. All right, Danielle.
Hi everyone, my name is Danielle Garcia. I'm a resident of Valencia County, born and raised in Los Lunas as well. My family's like 3 generations out here and a bunch from northern New Mexico too, as my family's originally from Cuesta and Cimarron. So a lot of experience across New Mexico. A little bit different from everybody here. I actually come from the private sector. I work for a public affairs firm that does stakeholder and community engagement for renewable energy companies and nonprofits that also support renewable energy. So a lot of my background has been climate justice work and organizing grassroots. I've transferred to the private sector and built intentional long distance and very strategic community engagement plans for these private companies so they can be better outreach in rural America and very conservative areas. So I've worked across tribal, migrant communities, and very red counties and red states.
Awesome. All right, thank you everyone for your introductions. Let's see. Do we want to do just quick kind of like core team intros? Katrina, I don't think you've introduced yourself to this task force yet. And then we can just do really short ones for Dan, Zach, Matt at the Sustainability Office. And maybe I see a few other folks that are kind of important here as well. Like I'll scroll and find them.
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. It's really, really nice to virtually meet all of you. I'm Katrina. I'm with Plan Collaborative, the planning principal. We are supporting Alice and her great team in the community engagement aspect of this work. A lot of our work focuses on public sector work, so we mainly work with communities throughout New Mexico in planning efforts. I also went to UNM and got a planning degree there. So hi, fellow planners. I'm always excited to be in a room full of planners. So nice to meet you all. I'll pass it on to Dan. He's also with our team, and then Zach, if he's still here.
Thanks, Katrina. Hi, everyone. Great to meet you or see you all again. I'll say it was great to be in a meeting today with people who I've worked with a lot over the years. I've done lots of different things over the years, and it just felt like a really amazing coming together of some really fantastic people in our community who are working really hard to improve it. So my name's Dan Majewski. I work at Plan Collaborative with Katrina and Zach. Really excited to be working on this climate resilience project. I've been doing a lot of climate work over the years, even if I or others wouldn't necessarily consider it at the time. For example, did a lot of active transportation advocacy work over the years. So working on transit and biking and still involved in those communities. So yeah, really excited to be here. I feel really fortunate to be able to work on this kind of stuff. And yeah, great to see everyone. So I will pass it off to Zach.
Yeah, I'm Zach Trisketa. I'm a planner with Plan Collaborative, and I'm working with Katrina and Dan on the public engagement for Alice's climate action plan. Yeah, and I'm very passionate about sustainability issues and climate action as well. So I'm just excited to be a part of it and excited to support it.
Thanks, Zach. Let's pass it, Hillary. Maybe do you want to do a quick intro of yourself as well, and then we'll pass it off to Anne, my boss at the Sustainability Office.
Hi, everyone. It's definitely been a pleasure to listen in today. My name is Hillary, and I'm the president and owner of Lotus Engineering and Sustainability. And we've been supporting this project from the data perspective. So we did the greenhouse gas inventory and projections. And over the next few meetings, you'll see people from Lotus that are here just to better understand the strategy so we can model their greenhouse gas reduction potential. But yeah, definitely I was very energized today. And so I'll pass it on to Anne.
Awesome. Hello, everybody, and it's great to be with you. I'm Ann Simon. I'm the Sustainability Officer for the City of Albuquerque, and just so grateful for your time and your energy and your wisdom in helping us shape this plan. And we will be working together for the next 4 or 5 months, so you'll be seeing more of me, but happy to be with you today, and thanks again for your time. I'll pass it to Sandra.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Sandra West, Sustainable Waste Specialist. Pronouns are she, her. Really excited to see all the people here today and to be part of this process, and gratitude to all the people who are making this happen and keeping it organized and as on time as possible. And thank you for everybody who's giving their time to have priorities here.
All right, let's do Albert and Veronica.
Hi everyone. My name is Albert Lee. I'm in the Sustainability Office.
I'm the Sustainable Transportation Specialist with the city, and I work on all things clean and green transportation with colleagues here at the city, as well as with community partners. And it's great to hear everybody's story about all the great things they're doing out in the community, and look forward to future meetings with you all. Thanks. And Veronica, you're next.
Hi all, Veronica Blunt, also with the Sustainability Office, focusing on nature-based items, so planting trees, green stormwater infrastructure. I will be leading the land use workshop, and I'm excited to have more conversations with you all. Come from a background of project management and landscape design, so hopefully we can work together and find out what we can do when it comes to land use. And I hope to learn so much more from you guys. Appreciate you guys being part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. All right, last but not least, Matt, please introduce yourself. And those of you who haven't, that are listening in, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Definitely want the task force to know who's in the room, but just for the sake of time, after Matt, we'll dive into the agenda.
Everybody, I'm Matt Aranez. I am an Equitable Development Fellow through the NCRC, which is an economic justice organization, and I'm also finishing up my master's of public administration at UNM. So I've been working with Alice and the team for the past 8 months, doing a lot of different things. We'll be going over the funding analysis later that I've been working on, and I helped with the equitable community engagement piece and that sort of thing. So thanks, everybody. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to start sharing my screen again. In our agenda, we did have quick introductions, and we just want to make sure that you guys have some of the some additional insight into what's coming up next, and some resources. So just checking in on the foundational materials. So I don't like to call it homework, but some of the things that we shared with you last time. And then we're going to go through the funding analysis and then the upcoming workshops, and then share kind of our decision-making framework and our community survey. And then we'll vote in our task force members at the end. So let me share my screen. Okay, so here's that agenda. Advance introductions, we did that great. So last time we met, we went over, or we shared with you, the 2021 Climate Action Plan. We gave you a physical copy for during our onboarding, and we shared a link to it. We also shared what the EPA is requiring of us, that comprehensive climate action plan outline. You didn't necessarily need to read it in detail, but it just gives you a sense of what we're required to do with the grant. And then we also asked for you to watch the greenhouse, or the climate pollution reduction overview webinar recording, which is about 45 minutes long, maybe an hour, of the actual content. And so I just want to ask this group, was there any questions you had as it pertains to these documents, or anything that you thought is worth highlighting? I'm going to assume silence is good. Okay, cool. Well, at the end of this meeting, we'll send you another email, but some of the things that I think would be really useful for you to get prepared for the workshop series is reviewing the community profiles. So this is something that Planned did for us early on. It's actually part of our equity commitments. So to recognize, so often people's knee-jerk reaction is to send out surveys and ask people's input for things, and not it does, I don't know. Surveys are important, and we're actually suggesting that we do one as part of this work as well. But we wanted to make sure we weren't asking people the same questions or asking for the same information that they've been giving feedback on for generations. So we had, so Planned worked really hard and did a literature review of all the comprehensive plans in the Fort County region. And so that community profiles one, we really just want you to read through the first few pages of it, which is the Central New Mexico profile. It gives you an idea of what are some of the key strengths and considerations for the region as it comes to planning. And then we also have sub summaries as well. So we have one for Bernalillo County, we have one for Sandoval County, Torrance County, Valencia County. The idea being that as we're developing this plan and these resources, we make it really easy for these other government agencies to carve out what their climate action plan could look like. So that's that is one benefit. The other benefit is providing a little bit more context for this community task force. So that's only a few pages. And then this literature review, it's a little bit bigger, but we'll be referring back to it. And I just recommend use the Control F function. And I'll show you what I mean when we go into it. And then review the Priority Climate Action Plan summary tables. We'll actually dive into that together, and then review the EPA measure directory, and we'll do that together as well. So really the only two homework items are these first two bullets. But if you want to dive into that a little bit more detail on your own, great. And those of you who weren't on the original task force, and if you get voted in, you'll have to do both, like everything on this slide. So you'll have to review these three things as well as these. So I'm hoping it won't be too burdensome, but good stuff to do. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Matt to talk about this section.
Great. Cool. I think we moved. Awesome. Yeah, so I have been working on just kind of a funding analysis for sustainability related projects. It's important when doing this work to kind of have an idea of what funding is out there. So when choosing different strategies and initiatives, you have a good idea of the feasibility with funding. So, right now, I think federal funding is uncertain and unreliable. So we haven't really been focusing on that too much. And this is just going to be a general overview, and I'll go over a funding matrix that you all have access to right after this. So yeah, at the state level, there's the Community Benefit Fund, Senate and Congressional discretionary funds, and the capital outlay process. At the city level, we have general operating budgets, council discretionary funds, and a lot of that type of funding could be used for pilot projects, that sort of thing. And then New Mexico is also blessed to have a lot of private foundations that work in this area, and local businesses, and also utility companies offer rebates and various grants and that sort of thing to support this work. I will be sharing my screen now. Cool. Everyone can see this, I hope.
Yep.
Great. So this is the funding matrix that we are working on, and there are different tabs. So this is kind of the past federal grants that have been available, just to give you all an idea of what type of funding and what type of projects were funded in the past. And kind of here are the federal tax credits and rebates that may or may not be available in the future. And here is a list of the APA funding that they had when they were funding this project. This is some of the funding that was actually available at that time. A list of different foundations that are working in New Mexico and kind of their focus areas. Different funding area that is available through different organizations that work in the whole state. And here are a bunch of tools to kind of look for funding, whether it's federal funding or local grants and that sort of thing. And I think, as task members, this is a living document, so we are going to be updating it. And if there's stuff that you see or that you know of that isn't here, there's going to be a way for you all to let us know so we can update this. So we're all on the same page.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, and so in these sector workshops, we'll have basically there's three big questions. We're going to not only narrow down what strategies are going to be a priority, but also what are some funding opportunities, what are some workforce needs, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, like Matt said, living document. we're going to work forward, work to build it over time. So, and Matt didn't share, but he's been a big part of our equitable, our community engagement approach. So he's part of he's our NCRC Equitable Development Fellow. NCRC stands for the National Coalition Community Reinvestment Coalition.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Okay. So he's been working for us for 20 hours a week as a funded stipend or a funded position to help us with both the community engagement approach and then this funding analysis. So he's only going to be with us for another week, but he's added a lot of value and has really encouraged me and our team around the purposes of engaging community and how their input will actually influence the outcomes of this work. So we owe a lot to Matt, and thanks so much. Okay, moving on, because we got a time to keep. So here are the upcoming workshops. I think I already talked a lot about this before, but what I want to share with you is a little bit more about the details of how it's going to work. So like I said, we're going to have this kind of like identification stuff. And the reason why that's important is so we can tie people's responses to their communities in the hopes that other organizations or regions will want to adopt this plan so they can, because we understand that urban and rural and tribal communities all have very different contexts and ways of operating and different priorities. So we want to make sure it's easy for us to segregate and split off that data. And so for next week, we're going to do transportation topics introduction. So this is basically like, what's going on in transportation in the region? What are some of our strengths and opportunities? What are some of the like threats or weaknesses? We'll have a quick overview that we'll create, but then we'll also allow, like we did today, for people to use like the live polling to share anything, amplify anything that we said, or share anything that we missed. So I think that will work really well. And I think we've set a nice precedent today of kind of how that's going to work. And then our panelists will operate in a slightly different format. So basically they're going to help give additional flavor and context around the opportunities for implementation. So going back to what Amber said, was it Amber, or maybe it was Angelica, around making sure we engage people who are actually going to be responsible for implementing this work. I think it'll be important for them to be in the room to give some guidance on like, oh yeah, you think like this is, yes, it's really great and important, but this is one of the big challenges or barriers that we have to doing that. So maybe a more effective strategy would be to address some of that. So they're going to basically provide comment on our first vote. So we're going to vote on the top 4 to 8 strategies, and I'll share where we're getting that list from. They'll have that discussion and kind of respond back to what anything that they're like supportive of or things that they're curious about, and then we'll do a second vote, and then we'll go into breakout rooms. So that's where we're going to focus on the top strategies and really try to like start fleshing them out as a group. And so before I go further on this, I think it's worth me sharing this data set. And this is we'll include this in our email summary to the group that attended today. But like I mentioned, this grant is part of a national climate planning effort. And what the EPA did, which I think is super cool, is they basically summarized all of the early deliverables of this grant to say, hey, here's how people quantified these different things, which you guys don't have to worry about with this work, but it helps like build that institutional capacity of like, oh, okay, what are other people doing in this space? But what's important to us is this down here about halfway is the measure types by sector. So here is a list. Actually, I can put this in the chat just so you guys have an idea of you can play around with this if you want. But what we're really interested in is this MSA, and MSA stands for Metro Statistical Area. So that's the region that our grant is servicing. So what they've done is they've made it sortable. So this gives you an idea of in terms of frequency, what the most popular kinds of strategies were included in plans like these. It's not to say that these are the ones that we should be doing, but I think it's a good place to start. And then you can see this is state level, this is tribe or tribal consortia. But you can see transportation has a ton of measures, partly because it's one of the biggest emission sources for this community scale greenhouse gas inventory. We'll get into the waste and the circularity component of that later on in the works, but for now, we know that transportation is 44% of our emissions. And then we'll go on in the other sectors, we'll do the same thing. We'll look at these, we'll have a discussion, we'll have a vote, blah, 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 blah. So that's that. And then we'll do breakout sessions. So Planned is going to be mostly spearheading all these sector workshops, which is they're going to be so fun. Our team, our sustainability office is going to help flesh out these intros. And then we'll go into breakout groups with the people that are there. So similar to today, it'll be kind of a mix of obviously you guys, and then folks who are working in the space have this sector specific experience and knowledge. So then we'll go into those breakout rooms and we'll work on a Miro board, which is basic, or am I saying it right? Miro. It's basically an interactive surface where folks can co-create their ideas, and then we'll work on making it pretty at the end. So, and what we were thinking is we'll have a second hour again like today to go into more the equity and community benefits components of this work, and really discuss how we want to prioritize these things. So we're thinking it would make sense for you guys to just split out amongst the different breakout groups, because I think there's a lot of value in the task force being intermixed with policy advisor types, because we want that to be kind of a collaborative, a process, and a great opportunity for people to learn from each other. Okay, and then the brainstorming the strategies. So I've underlined this with this link, which is basically again, the EPA has, I don't know why it's taking so long. There we go. They've quantified all the different measure types. So this is another good way to come up with some ideas. This doesn't have to be our main source, but it's a good place to see oh, these are the kinds of strategies and policy levers that we're looking at. So I'm not expecting you guys to be experts in this, but as long as you can come through here and just get a sense of what other people are doing, and then we'll just kind of go from there. And Julia, I see your comment. We're gonna wrap up here soon. So that's what's coming up with the agenda. This is, you've probably seen this slide before, is in the greenhouse gas overview webinar. This is something that Lotus put together for us to think about those policy levers and strategy types. And then I wanted to share two things with you, the community survey and then our decision-making matrix. We can go into this in more detail, but these two documents are how it's hard to, because of the great challenge that Matt has proposed to us around thinking about how this work, people actually influence the outcomes of this work. Here, let me make this a little bit more beautiful before I share my screen. Strategy list, better zoom. So to balance the need to prepare for this, because we do have timelines you want to keep, but also provide you all with the correct with enough information to make informed decisions. What Lotus did is they developed helped outline a few suggestions around strategies that we could think about. So what I'm sharing with you today is just a few light suggestions of things that could work well based on just the greenhouse gas emissions data. So this is by no means what we're going to be doing, but this gives you an idea of how it's structured. So we have the sector type, the kind of strategy, some implementation examples, and this is where a lot of this local knowledge could come into play, and whether or not is included in our projections going forward. The rough level of greenhouse gas impact, a rough guesstimate of government cost, and this is the frequency that's included in the EPA's in this table here, the frequency that it's found there. And then I have these 4 columns that are particularly important. So this is a rating of, is this considered an industry best practice? What do some of the policy advisor folks, kind of like folks who are implementing this work, what's their vote on whether this is a high priority or not? We give the community task force your own column. And then once we've narrowed down and selected those strategies, we'll have a second community survey to say, hey, community, what do you think of these things? And they can vote and rank from there. So I think it helps us allow for transparency in how we're balancing the different considerations in this work. And then this, and I'm happy to go back over this again when we have a little bit more time, but this will tie to the community survey, and this is what we're going to be fleshing out in those meetings. And then we have a specific column here for the community task force to give it a rating on whether it addresses root causes of environmental injustice or not. So I'm gonna pause there because we're approaching the end of time. I think what we should do is, for anyone who wants to stay a little bit longer and discuss what that looks like, we can go into more. We can also go into more detail of this decision-making matrix, et cetera, in our next meeting. But I want to allow for us to come back to the nominees for our community task force and make sure that that process is tied up. So for those of you who are who weren't aware of the entire process for this, basically we created this community task force. We had some additional positions available. So we asked the existing task force to see if they wanted to nominate anyone in this work. So Julia, I think let's have you go first, and just kind of restate what you bring to this work, and then task force members, as far as voting goes, if you can do a direct message to myself, just say like a yes or no. I'm hoping that these won't be too difficult of decisions for this group to make, but just a quick litmus test of who's, do you think they're going to be a good fit or not for this group? So with that, task force, or Julia, last pitch, kind of what you bring to the group, and yeah, how you see this. Yeah, basically what you, why do you think you're a good fit for this task force?
Okay. Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, I am the executive director of Pueblo Action Alliance. For the past 9 years, we've been really engaged in the work around environmental and climate justice. And I think that is always an incredible component to this work, because it has traditionally been frontline communities that are actively speaking out against the climate crisis in that way. my background predominantly has been in water resources. I'm finishing up my master's degrees in water resources and community and regional planning at the University of New Mexico. And I've like had experience in all various types of the work, from being on the ground collecting data, whether that was flow measurements or doing water quality testing, to the policy side of things, shaping and helping provide feedback on meaningful climate policy, both at the regional or, yeah, actually at the regional level, the federal level, and also the international level. Our organization has been heavily involved in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And so we have had extensive experience working on negotiations with the Paris Agreement and ensuring that Indigenous communities, frontline communities, are also providing like their input to that work as well. And one of our longest standing campaigns has been to protect the Greater Chaco region, which has been heavily impacted by the federal fossil fuel leasing program. So recognizing that the oil and gas industry does contribute a lot to the climate crisis. But yeah, I guess that's like a short little synopsis of the work that I've been doing over the, you know, over a decade now. So yeah.
So thank you so much, Julia. I think given that we're at time, existing task force, can you maybe just send a vote on, since we heard a little bit about each of the folks earlier, if you have any initial votes now, send them to me directly. I think they seem to be all really great opportunities. And there are enough positions for all of them to participate. So I see a few coming through that says yes to all. So if you feel similarly, let me know. And then nominees, I'll be following back up with you via email. Yeah, we can kind of go from there. Just to respect everyone's time. Woo, there's a lot to pack in to 2 hours. Really want to thank everyone so much for your work. Nominees, you're welcome to stay on a little bit later. And then I see I'm just waiting on a few for votes, so I can follow up if needed. So yeah, great. Neil, Ryan, Tanya, Cassandra, we're all good. Xavier, when you're ready. Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Sorry for rushing this at the end, folks. Katrina, any last words? Does that?
No last words. I think this was great. I think we will learn from today and we'll make the first half of the meeting a little more expedited so we have enough time for you all. But thank you so much. This was great and it was really good to meet everyone.